All right, so I'm going to share my screen and just start the slideshow. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about drama for dialogue, learning, and community. And a lot of what I talk about is also discussed in the book that you can see on the right, which I co-authored with Dr. Melissa Kahneman-Taylor. And in the book, we talk about strategies for teaching all kinds of languages, so not just English, through drama to all ages and levels of learner. But as Denzel mentioned, before I got my PhD and became a professor, I had a long history teaching ESL and EFL in the United States and abroad. And a lot of my teaching focused on adult contexts. So the examples from my research and practice that I will share with you right now took place in adult contexts. But drama is wonderful for all ages, levels, and languages. So I wanted to note that just at the beginning. So is it similar to art therapy expression through the arts? Art therapy, it is of course similar because we are expressing things through the arts, but art therapy has a therapy element, right? So that requires some expertise in counseling, as well as in drama and language teaching. But I'm glad to see the question in the chat. And I'm going to encourage you to enter questions in the chat during the presentation. I might interrupt myself to answer them, or I might save my responses for the last 5 minutes or so. All right, so the goals for today for my presentation are that you can all learn how drama can support language learners, particularly in ESOL contexts. So I'll start by giving an introduction to drama. What is it? Why use it and how? Then I'll share 2 or 3 examples. We'll see if I have time for the third. And I'll go over some common questions and concerns that people bring up to me when I talk to them about teaching through drama. So if you look at the list on the left, how do people use drama? Well, there are drama games and activities, role plays, improvisation. There are some more kind of niche approaches like process drama, which I'm not going to go into today, readers theater, playwriting, and performance. I wanted to share this list with you because when I say, oh, I'm very interested in teaching language through drama, people say, well, what do you do? Do you have your students perform Shakespeare? I don't. I might. That would be teaching language through drama, and some people do. That's not what I do. I focus on drama games, playwriting based on learners' experiences, and engaging learners in performance in the classroom. But no matter how experienced you are, some people might just want to sink into the floor when I mention we're going to do drama today. You probably already use it to some extent in your classrooms if you're a language teacher. Most language curricula and language teaching books rely on drama already as a staple in the classroom. So if you open a language textbook, you will probably see scripts that people can practice, or you might have role plays that you engage your students in. So it might sound super new and innovative, but actually teaching language through drama has been happening for a very long time. In fact, I think the first reference to that is by Plato. So why is this interesting to me? Why do I think it's important for other people to learn about? In 2017, I published a literature review about drama in language teaching, and that literature review revealed that there are so many benefits to intentionally incorporating drama into language instruction. And those are in the cognitive domain, so in terms of language acquisition, and in the practical and social domains. Drama really mirrors everyday life. It requires improvisation and interpersonal skills that bringing drama into the classroom helps to hone in our language learners. A lot of research has demonstrated that drama helps students make gains in vocabulary, syntax, and communicative competence. It can be used to support the 4 skills: reading, writing, speaking, and listening, to hone soft skills like public speaking, risk-taking, and how we present ourselves to others. It's a multimodal approach, so it asks us to use our bodies fully, our language, and if we're putting on performances or staging even in our own classrooms, then we're thinking and communicating through props, sets, potentially the internet as well. And my research focuses on learners' pride and confidence. I've found that although drama can be really anxiety-provoking, it also really increases students' pride and confidence in English language use, particularly among adult immigrants in the skill of speaking. But I wanted to share this quote with you too. Drama, in addition to just being a tool to teach grammar or vocabulary, can engage learners in critical reflection on identity in relation to broader societal discourses. As Medina and Wellsteck wrote, it's an ideal way to observe and articulate how personal, community, and institutional literacies are negotiated and created within the performance of the self. So drama really goes beyond listen and repeat, learn this syntactic structure, to how am I performing myself in my second, third, or fourth language. So in our book, we discuss how drama can be used to focus on so many things, from building trust in the classroom to addressing issues of social justice, which I'll talk about later, to, of course, what many teachers are concerned with, teaching grammar, vocabulary, speaking, listening, pronunciation, reading, writing, etc., in fun, interactive, and memorable ways. So I'm sharing just like a screenshot. Some of you have probably played Never Have I Ever. I'm not going to explain it, but it's a fun game, which I use a lot to practice the present perfect with learners. But I wanted to focus here particularly on the aims. Students will be able to, that's what SWABAT means right in the middle here, participate in oral competition while forming negative sentences. So throughout our book and in my practice, we try really hard to make it clear that drama is not only about having fun, right? We can tie this specifically to our learners' language learning goals and to the curricular specifications of our institutions, the state in which we teach, etc. So moving on, I'm going to focus on just sharing with you some stories. Here you can see 2 images from my work at the Immigrant Learning Center. In the image on the left, a classroom of students, and actually on the right, the same requirements for both. Students played in a mandatory ESOL classroom. So this was the intermediate class in which I was the ESL teacher and the theater teacher, as well as a researcher. Students played theater games. They studied the normal ESOL curriculum, just like all the other classes in the school. And they shared stories from their lives with one another, which they then performed in various settings. So on the left, these students performed their stories at the local high school. It was open to the community. We also performed at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. And on the right, you can see one of the students sharing her story through performance with a group of children at a summer arts camp. So let me share one of the scenes with you. Students developed these scenes after having experimented with drama tied to the curriculum, right? Playing drama games, focusing on grammar and vocabulary. They shared stories from their lives. And something that I have found really important is to allow students to self-select stories. The story I'm sharing here is it's a pretty hard story, which is unfortunately can be common with new immigrants to the United States, a story of discrimination. But I would caution teachers and practitioners not to force learners to share stories of trauma, right? We open the platform up to the students, say, what story would you like to share with this particular audience so they know where they're going to perform? And that helps them reflect, what story do I want to share with this one unique chance to share my life with members of my community? A lot of the stories were joyful. They were about love, travel, and several were like this one here, stories of hardship and discrimination in the US. So I'll read this to you. Linda was a student, an adult ESOL student from Cuba. And in her scene, she wrote, "Sorry, I don't understand. I don't speak English very well. Can you repeat, please?" She's at the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is notorious for being an unpleasant place with unpleasant people. And the clerk says to her very harshly, "If you don't speak English, go back to your country, learn English, and then if you want to, come back." Linda walks away almost crying. So in the middle here, a man comes up to her and offers her help. But if we skip to the end, the man walks up and says to the clerk, "If you speak a little more slowly, she can understand you, or I can translate for her." But the clerk says, "I already told her what she has to do. I don't need to repeat anything." And the man responds, "You are very disrespectful. Maybe it's time for you to retire. This is a country of immigrants." So what happened to Linda in real life is not what is in this story. In real life, no man came to help her, but through drama, she reimagined the scenario. And in reflecting on this in an interview after the performance, Linda said, "I don't want this to happen to other immigrants because it was hard. It was very, very hard. But now I feel like I can go back to the DMV and say to the clerk, look, I am here, not in my country." I think this quote illustrates Linda's pride in writing and performing this scene, but B, drama's possibilities for allowing students to build resources together, to share common experiences, and to brainstorm ways to overcome challenging experiences or share joys together. So moving on, this was a much more recent collaboration. It just came to an end last month. And the Immigrant Learning Center was really generous in inviting me to research a project that they had in collaboration with the American Repertory Theater at Harvard. So a professional theater artist came to the school in an extracurricular setting this time and led students in games and theater activities that were rather abstract, which they then performed at the American Repertory Theater, which is one of the best theater companies in the world, and certainly in this country. So here's an image of their dress rehearsal. This is an image of the script writing process. So in addition to some abstract performance elements, the students wrote plays. They wrote monologues. So I volunteered to help them with the script writing. We did this on Zoom via Google Docs. On the bottom, you can see students contemplating home. And one of the students drafted this in Mandarin in a Google Doc on Zoom with me. And then I used Google Translate to translate it to English. Then we looked at her original writing in her first language and my very poor Google translation and collaborated in writing this monologue, which she performed in public. Here you can see the images of their performance. This is one of the students performing their monologue. You can see through these images, students using their whole bodies to share their experiences, as well as their words with a public audience. After the performance, and during the performance. So on the left, you can see one of the ESL teachers of the school composed and played music for the production. And on the right, you can see students at the garden reception afterwards and an audience member taking some food in the garden at the theater. This really opened opportunities for students to share and discuss more informally with one another, as well as with their teachers at the school and the public, the outside community. So I think due to time, I'm going to skip some of the drama games and activities that I was going to share. Oops. Yeah, no, we're skipping you. And I'm going to move on to some common questions and concerns. So I love drama. I grew up as a theater artist. I still am. But not everyone did, right? Some students don't love being asked to do drama. So here are some common concerns. Teachers sometimes say my students' language or literacy level is too low or too high. Your students may not want to or be able to perform in public. That doesn't mean that you can't engage them in dramatic play for language learning. This can be done with people who have never seen the language before, as well as with students who are highly proficient in the language. The second concern is really common. The students or administration or parents don't want to do drama, or they don't see the point in it. So my response here is, it's your responsibility as the teacher, if you're doing these innovative activities, to connect these to your curriculum. And you can tell your students that. I find that an important strategy when working with adults. Connect what you're doing to a language objective. Same for parents and the administration. How does this fit within the curriculum? You should have the answers to that first before you're engaging them in this play. So little time. How do I fit it into the curriculum? Well, it doesn't need to take more time, really, right? You're just imagining or reimagining how your instruction can be more interactive. So you don't have to get rid of the past perfect or academic writing. You can augment it through dramatic practice. Yes, drama can certainly cause anxiety. That's just true. You can create other roles for students, right? Like they can create the props, help writing the script without having to perform. I'm gonna skip the other two just so we have a little more time for questions. And I'm gonna just say that you are welcome to reach out to me. My email is kathleen.mcgovern@maine.edu. So I'm happy to continue this conversation after today. And I'm also happy, to talk to you more about trainings, etc. All right. I see Denzel shared a clip. There are some questions here about being familiar with particular forms of theater, like Jonathan Fox and Joe Salas. I'm not familiar with that. Or TPRS. My co-author is a big fan of TPRS. Can I leave my email up? I'll enter my email in the chat. I see some proponents of drama. So thank you so much for listening. And I'll put my email in the chat. I'll be happy to be in touch in the future.